Yeah. And the hardest, talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what hard is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock this. Let's get it started. It's the hardest, talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what hard is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock this. Let's get it started. Yeah, get your boots ready. We're about to go on a trip where we wrestle, nobody settling or calling it quits. You're here for the grit, betcha this stuff is amazing. You're stumbling, welcome to the bump in the apron. Step into it, the hardest part of the ring. Here to bring fun, yeah, and this art he's king. It's the best thing, making sure you don't tap out. Don't go soft with the hardest podcast out. And it's not just another one, it's clear. Off the rest, in this content, none contest. Take the nonsense off the steps. You know it's nothing but pure gems when it's coming off the chest. Get it? Now it's time to sit and relax. Get your mind blown away, ain't no skipping this track. Have you paying more attention, no listening gap. Get everything I ever wanted, no giving it back.
Ooh, what's up everybody? Welcome to the Apron Bump Podcast. I am your host, as always, Kyle, aka the hardest part of the ring. And this show, man, we got a doozy for you today. Get your sunscreen, get your shovel, your pail, your lube, all the stuff that you would bring to the beach. Gather all of that up, put it in a wagon, and drag it to this episode. Bash at the Beach, 1995. Wow. What a spectacle this show was. I don't know how I've avoided this pay-per-view my entire life. I feel like I've vaguely heard about it before, but I've never thought about it in depth or really watched any of the matches that occurred on this show. But by golly, is it a sight to see? And the reason for that, it's because this show, Bash at the Beach, not only is it a bash, because it's always a bash, right? But this year, it's actually on the beach. That's right, they plopped a ring on the sand, right by the waves and the lifeguard stands and help me out. What else is at the beach, guys? Dunes. Sand crabs, all of that is in the same vicinity as a major pay-per-view. Because that's the thing, right? Because we talk about this a lot in the episode and how just logistically it's kind of insane that they did this, right? But at the same time, I applaud them for doing it. Them being Eric Bischoff, WCW, whoever originated this idea and put it into action. I applaud them. I applaud WCW for doing this because, as I said in a recent YouTube video of things that could improve WWE, one of the things I said was based on stuff like this. One of those things was themed pay-per-views. Making pay-per-views feel different than just the normal run-of-the-mill TV show or live event or whatever. And whether you like this show, whether you hate this show, one thing you cannot say is that it just felt like another show. It just felt like another WCW Saturday night or another WCW pay-per-view, because there is no other show on earth that felt like this one. And I will never forget this, most likely. So I applaud them for that. Now, in execution, does it make a lot of sense to do this more than once? I don't know if it does, but we discuss the pros and cons on the episode, so I guess that's kind of why we do this, huh? But that being said, we have this spectacle, we have this gimmick. We're on the beach, isn't it kooky, gang, that we're on the beach? You would think the matches, the content of the show would be kind of throwaway, because the appeal is that they're on the beach. Look at the crazy location that we're at, right? We're in Huntington Beach. It's isn't it crazy that we're doing this, right? You think the matches and the content would be just throwaway stuff, but in reality, this show is full of blow-offs to major feuds that have been months, if not years, in the making. Hogan and Vader main eventing this show in a steel cage for the world title. Fuck, when was the last time Hogan defended his WCW title? Was it like, has he even defended it in 1995? I don't know if he has, and we're in the goddamn summer. Major main event right there. And it just happens to be with waves in the background and Baywatch girls surrounding the ring. It's crazy. You got Bobby Heenan has his white pants tucked into his polo and his sunglasses. There's a lot going on here. You got Macho Man Ric Flair. Blood feud. Flair attacked Macho's dad. They had a match at the last pay-per-view, Great American Bash, and then Flair won in a brutal way. I think he hit Macho Man in the head with like a bat or something, if I remember correctly. It's been a brutal feud, very personal feud. But what better way to blow that off than in a Lifeguard Lumberjack match with palm trees and coconuts and someone tanning their cheeks in the background. I don't know. So you got Hogan and Vader blow off. You got a Macho Man Flair blow off. You got a DDP and Dave Sullivan blow off. At least I fucking hope so. Jesus Christ. Why are we still doing this? But a lot going on. The spectacle of it all is podcast worthy in itself. But the matches are not good for the most part. But it's, look, 3 words. Dungeon of Doom. I'll leave it at that. So, a lot going on this show. And could not have had a better guest than Bama Dave from the Smacked Raw podcast. That's right, doubling up on the Smacked Raw this month to start out the new year. Had Kyle on last week, which is a great episode. Backlash 2002, if you have not checked that out. But this week we got Dave from the Smacked Raw podcast. You can check out the Smacked Raw podcast live on Twitch, on YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts as well, of course. I've been on Bama's show a lot. Some of the shows that he hosts under the Smacked Raw umbrella. Some that come to mind are top 10 tag teams of all time. We created the pay-per-view schedule, an ideal pay-per-view schedule for WWE. We've done various prediction shows, check your temperature, as he calls it. I've been fortunate enough to come on his show a lot. So go check those episodes out that I've been on, but as well as all of the episodes that Smacked Raw puts out. So go check them out at Smacked Raw Pod on Twitter. And you can follow Dave on Twitter at BamaDave24. I'll put all of their info, their link trees, their Patreons, all of that in the description below as well. Go check them out. A lot of cool guys over there. Lots of unique content from the Smacked Raw crew. So go check that out and check this out, why don't you? Let's get into it. WCW Bash at the Beach 1995 with myself and Dave from the Smacked Raw podcast. Which right off the bat, what did you think of that? You turn on the show and like literally it's a beach and waves in the background, right, and there's a huge it looks like an MTV Spring Break thing around it. What did you think of that conceptually?
I gotta admit, the first time when the show started and I saw that, I was like, why hadn't anybody done this since then? I thought this is really, I mean, I get it. You have no air conditioning. You got sand to deal with. You got, I'm sure it's a sound nightmare and, all that stuff. So it's a lot less control, but it's Bash at the beach and literally they're on the beach. So I was like, this is a memorable thing. I'm never going to forget the spectacle of that. It was really, really cool.
It was crazy. Yeah, there was some points in the show where it was like, man, that's an awesome visual.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, logistically, I can see that being a nightmare. Just like the electricity, setting everything up on the sand.
Exactly.
They might have even said something about this. I don't know if anybody paid to be there. I think they were just on the beach.
Yeah.
And they just so you don't make a lot of money doing it. And plus the extra money probably goes into like transport and all that stuff and like fees you got to pay.
Merchandise,
and licenses.
Sales, whatever.
It's probably
whatever
a nightmare.
have. Yeah.
Plus, you're wrestling under the beating sun,
right,
which I think played a lot into a lot of the matches being like kind of like there was a lot of short matches on this show. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah.
Rarely did a match go past like 5 minutes.
Right.
I mean, the show as a whole was like what, 2 hours, 20 minutes?
Yeah, 2 hours, 20, 25, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's kind of where I'm getting at is I don't think the content of the show was important to them as much as hey, look at us, we're on the beach.
Yeah, exactly.
And credit to them, man. I'm sure it got a lot of buzz.
Yeah.
Separating themselves from like WWF and all that.
Yeah,
so
this is WWF's really lull time, so this is a major deal for WCW to do something different like this. So.
Yeah, and even ECW's starting to gain a little steam at this point. They're not, nowhere near with it. They're not on TV or anywhere close to it, really.
Right.
But they're making names for themselves too. But yeah, definitely I guess overall, we kind of touched on it. But overall, what were your thoughts on Bash at the Beach '95?
If I'm gonna grade it, I'm gonna give it like right at a C. It's maybe I might even be generous and go C plus. There's a couple of matches on here that I'm never gonna forget. They were well done and they were very memorable. The biggest thing for me is, I mean, you're a little bit younger than me, but I got to watch these guys wrestle. Especially Sting. I got to watch him wrestle in his prime, and so I grew up 10, 11, 12 years old. Sting was in his early 30s, so he was in his peak condition, and so watching him and watching Hogan in his early 40s and Flair in his early 40s and Macho Man when they still could go and when they still had this megastar status and everybody was really wanting to see them. So I immediately felt like this is why I fell in love with wrestling. These over-the-top characters that were just so good at captivating you and had such charisma. So yeah, but it was cool to go back there for a little bit. Yeah, for sure. And for me, being somebody that was born in '93, I missed a lot of their primes. Right.
But it's kind of a cool period here because it's like it has that modern kind of feel, but still has those older characters.
Exactly.
And like you said, they can still pretty much do at least what they've always been able to do, like Hulk Hogan. Like, say what you want about Hulk Hogan, but he was just as good here as he was physically as he was at any point,
Absolutely.
But yeah, lots of throwbacks on the show. But yeah, so the show kicks off. Like I said, they're on the beach. They have Heenan, Tony Schiavone. They're like in polos and sunglasses under like a little cabana.
And short shorts.
Oh, man. So Tony Schiavone, fun fact, went to the same college that I did. And
really?
When I went to college, people dressed like that. So it all makes sense. Like he had like the salmon shorts or whatever.
Yes.
Tucked in. I was like, yep. And like he had boat shoes or something. I was like, yeah, that sounds pretty James Madison University to me.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, so man, and Slim Jim. I hope you like Slim Jims, because if you don't, you're going to hate this show because...
Yes, you are.
Do you like Slim Jims? It's a hot question, I know, but...
It's, I could take it or leave them. I mean, if somebody gives me one and says, snap into it, I'm going to snap into it, but yeah, I don't have to have one. but it's just funny to go back and hear the Macho Man snap into that Slim Jim. Oh yeah.
Oh man, that's they were gonna milk every dollar that they could out of that.
Oh yes, they were.
But yeah, kicking it off the show with the United States Championship on the line. We got the champion Sting versus Ming. Of course, accompanied by Colonel Robert Parker. Ming is, and Sting, hometown boy. Obviously, and he's the surfer guy. He's by the beach. He's in his element. I mean, this show is made for him.
Right outside his hometown.
Yeah. So he had the crowd behind him, and but before the match, we have a little like a vignette for Ming. Do you recall that one? It's a.
I do. Yeah, they're trying to set up all the different styles of martial arts he knows and how he's lethal with anybody he gets in the ring with. How with one kick he can end a match, and I'm like, okay, well, if he's this dangerous, why is he with Colonel Robert Parker? It's just that little disconnect there.
And by the way, for context, Ming loses like all the time. Like he lost to Sting at the last pay-per-view. He lost to Jim Duggan, I think, at a previous one. There's like a double count out at a previous. So he hasn't exactly been stacking bodies unless he's doing it on like Saturday night or something.
Right.
But whatever. Give him a vignette, build him up. Like you said, it's like the graphic where he's doing all the martial arts poses and says that he can do 7 forms of martial arts.
Yep, something like that.
And then it cuts to a Sting promo backstage, and Sting's like, "Well, this guy knows 7 forms of martial arts. I know 7 forms of crazy."
Crazy. Yep.
Sting. It's just funny watching him because he's still on TV nowadays, and
he was never the greatest promo, but he always had such energy and such charisma. And fun fact, I'm going to get a lot of flack for this. I actually prefer the Surfer Sting over the Crow.
I think that's fair.
I just, maybe it's nostalgia, but I loved the high energy, hype up the crowd.
Yeah.
You know, at any point the deathlock could go on when he pulled to it. I think he threw the Stinger Splash with more intensity and more power when he had that hyped up surfer energy.
Mm-hmm.
As the Crow Sting, he was more methodical, slower paced, darker. So, you know, it just, to each their own. I mean, the Crow Sting is what he's probably the most remembered for now, and now he still wears it today. But if you said what's your favorite period of Sting's career, it would be the Surfer Sting from the early 90s. So
no, I get that. He's very, you know, because me trying to put myself in the shoes of somebody watching this in 95. I can picture myself, like if I was watching at the time, I would be a huge Sting fan for sure. I definitely get the appeal.
I was.
He's got that like innate charisma.
I am. He's probably my second favorite wrestler of all time, honestly.
Who's your first?
HBK.
Okay. That's respectable. Not Ming?
No, but I will say this. Ming was, I was scared of Ming when he finally paired up with Barbarian and became the Faces of Fear. Yeah. That's when I was like, okay, this is where Ming belongs with this guy in a tag team. That's where he belongs. So
my introduction to Ming was the 2001 Royal Rumble match when he came out. I don't know if you recall that. He had the big afro and the big pants. He was teaming with Rikishi.
Right.
So in my head, that was who Haku was, but
exactly,
definitely a different, well, not that different of a representation here, but so the match this is probably like, if we're talking about like from a technical standpoint, maybe the best match of the card. You could argue the main event as well, which I might probably go with the main event.
I would go with the one right before the main event, but we'll get there.
Okay. You know what? Yeah, that's right. But Sting and Ming going out here, it's a classic. I mean, they're not, you know, doing anything groundbreaking out there. Like I said, they're kind of, it's like, hey, we're at the beach, gang. Look at us wrestle at the beach. Isn't it silly? But that being said, it's a solid match. You have the prototypical babyface and Sting. You have a great heel character in Ming. But you know, what I feel like the value in Ming is his off the wall, like he's like a little rough around the edges, kind of.
Yes.
I feel like he kind of fell into like a generic kind of heel in this match. Maybe I'm just looking too much into it, or maybe it's because of the fact that it's 90 degrees probably. Because that's the one thing I noticed about this match is Ming was dripping in sweat. I can't imagine wrestling in that.
Yeah, Sting lost half his face paint within the first 20 minutes because it just melted. But yeah, I mean, Sting looked like at any point he could just go out there and jump on a surfboard and it would fit perfectly.
Yeah.
And the only things I wrote down with this was it's always cool to hear Michael Buffer intro a match, and it was and I miss David Pinzer's still active on Twitter. You could probably, I don't know if anybody out there knows who David Pinzer is, but he was WCW's ring announcer for pretty much the entire length of their heyday. But then, the only other thing I would say to it is, man, as off the wall and Clash of Styles as it was, that ending so disappointing.
Yeah,
I'll
run through it. So Sting, he locks in the Scorpion Deathlock. Colonel Parker gets up to break it up, and this distracts Sting. Ming takes advantage at that point. But ultimately, Sting comes back. It's a big springboard crossbody. Gets whipped into the corner. Sting does, but it's probably my favorite spot of the whole match. Sting's in the corner. Ming charges at him. Ming just sends his body towards Sting with like all of his weight and momentum. Sting gets his foot up, damn near knocks Ming out with this kick.
Yep.
Really laying it in here. Ming hits a splash from the second rope at one point for a 2 count. He gets up, he argues with the ref, but then Sting is able to take advantage of this distraction by just a god-awful roll-up, but gives him the win. So Sting retains the title, and Ming attacks Sting after the match, but Hawk comes out to make the save, and him and Ming have a little stare down. But
right.
Yeah, the finish, man. It reminded me of when Austin broke his neck, Stone Cold, and they had to do that little, that crappy little roll up. That was pretty similar to what we saw here.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. And it was weird seeing Hawk without Animal. For those of you that
Yeah.
don't know, Animal had a back injury at this time, so he was on the mend. And actually, he and Hawk were kind of at odds because Hawk went to Japan for a couple of years, and he actually formed a Road Warrior copycat team with somebody else out there. Animal got mad about it, and the two of them didn't tag together for a couple of years. So Animal's out with a back injury, and he and Hawk are negotiating whether or not they're ever going to tag again. We won't see Animal again till middle of the next year. So just watching Hawk come out there to back Sting up without Animal, I was like, I remember because that's the first time I ever met the Road Warrior, or not met, but that's the first time I ever saw the Road Warriors was Hawk by himself. So I just thought he had a cool, mean gimmick. I had no idea he had a tag partner. So when Animal finally showed up, I was like, wow, there's two of them.
What are the odds? He has the same shoulder pads as this guy.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, and Hawk and Ming had a match at I think it was the last show, which was a weird one. It wasn't, I wouldn't go out of your way to watch it, but maybe they'll have a rematch. I've never seen it. I'm sure it'll be also bad, but but we go backstage here. Speaking of bad, we got the Renegade. Tell me, Dave, you a big fan of the Renegade?
I had no clue who he was, and I will probably forget about him when this show's over.
Actually, let me ask you this. When you saw him, did you think, hey, that's the Ultimate Warrior?
No.
So you're saying it wasn't a good parody?
No, I thought this dude's on meth or something. this dude just came off the surfboard.
The idea.
They slapped some face paint on him, and I was like, why is he with Jimmy Hart too? This is like the weirdest pairing of anything, but anyway.
Yeah, so he's here to be that Ultimate Warrior, like stand-in, basically. Kind of, and there's like this little alliance that's surrounded by Jimmy Hart. It's Hogan, Renegade, Macho Man, all, the WWF, the golden era, big names. So that's kind of wise with Jimmy Hart, and still doesn't really make sense. But so yeah, we got a Renegade promo, which is a treat. I've never seen a Renegade. I've only seen him bumble around in the ring. But yeah, it's a bunch of growls, a bunch of snorts. And he's here to TOS. Dave, do you remember what that means?
I'm trying to remember. I wrote it down and then I forget. That's on the page.
I didn't tell you it was gonna be a quiz, but there is. Yeah, TOS. Terminate on
site.
Yeah, yes. That's pretty cool, right?
No.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, Renegade's here. Is trying to cut a promo, fails. So that leads us into the match. It's believe it or not, Renegade is a champion at this point. He is the TV champion.
Right.
Coming off a victory over Arn Anderson, of all people. I believe it was definitely his debut pay-per-view match. I don't know if it was his debut match in general or not, but I mean, they're throwing him in there with guys who can theoretically be that quarterback kind of guy, I guess, to lead him through the match. But
how much you think they had to bump Arn's pay to let him put this guy over?
He was set for the rest of the year, I'm sure.
Exactly.
Kind of a similar story here. So we got Renegade defending his title against Paul Orndorff.
Mr. Wonderful.
Ooh, man.
Oh, man. I missed him.
Yeah. He's just so solid. I think that's the word for him.
Yes.
And he did the thing in this match that I was hoping I would see is so Orndorff at one point gets knocked over the ropes to the outside, and he grabs a handful of sand.
Genius.
And throws it in the face of Renegade. That's the price of admission right there. See Renegade gets sand thrown in his eyes.
And not to spoil the rest of the pay-per-view, but fun fact, nobody else did that but him. And I'm glad they didn't prostitute that. That was a very memorable moment because he did it. So
I mean, they could have had like a casket match with like a hole in the sand or something, but maybe that's next year. Oh no, that's
buried alive on the beach.
Hey, AEW still has Bash at the Beach. Maybe we can see it. Like a Darby Allin match. I could see that.
Maybe.
I'm like half joking. That seems like something they would do.
No, that is something they would do. Absolutely.
But the match is what it is. I mean, it's actually not as terrible as I thought it would be. Renegade's getting some of his offense in. He's like hitting drop kicks. The crowd is not into Renegade though. This is the one thing.
No, they're cheering the heel. That was mind blowing because back in that day they usually didn't do that.
Yeah.
So it was really weird to hear them cheering Mr. Wonderful and booing the Renegade.
Right. I mean, Orndorff here is getting some of the biggest pops of the night.
Yes.
And he's the heel.
Yes.
But yeah, so Renegade, he hits a drop kick, and then not a lot to this match. Ultimately, Renegade hits a back suplex with a pin for the win. The commentary said that Orndorff's shoulders were up, but I watched it back. It seemed like his shoulders were down to me.
Yep. It looked interesting. Now, it was funny because Nick Patrick is looking at his shoulder, and then, the other arm comes up, but even the shoulder, it's like his, I can't do it because I'm facing you, but it's like both shoulders were like this.
Yeah.
So it's like they're not flat. So
Right.
it's like technically the referee's supposed to slide their hand under. If they get their hand under your shoulder, then the shoulder's up.
Right.
But it's like, I think even Nick Patrick was like, can we just end this? I'm done with this Renegade guy. Can we just end this match?
It's hot. His face paint's melting off. The crowd doesn't care. They're throwing beach balls all over the place. Let's just go home.
Classic Nick Patrick with that big old flowing mullet he always had for
Ooh.
all those years.
He got rid of the mustache, though, I think, right?
Yes, he did.
Yes,
he did.
Disappointed. So Renegade wins. Orndorff, once again, the heel, attacks after the bell, hits a pile driver to a huge pop. Gotta love, I mean, how could you not, though, for a Paul Orndorff pile driver? So Orndorff hits it, and then he starts arguing with the ref for no reason. But Renegade no-sells the pile driver. You see, kids, people have been doing this for years.
Yep. I still hate it.
Yeah, knows. But it's Renegade. What are you going to do?
It's Renegade.
So Renegade gets up from the pile driver, goes to the top rope, and hits a flying something. He kind of just throws his body. I don't know if it was a crossbody or a forearm. He threw his body at Paul Orndorff, knocked him down. And, so like I said, it wasn't terrible. Orndorff's there. He made Renegade look good, I think. And the match, it was what it was.
If the Ming Sting match was a B, what would you rate this one?
Probably a C.
Yeah.
It definitely wasn't. But, it was, if we're talking like value per dollar, I might give it to this match, honestly. But, man, the hits just keep on coming. So, the next match, remember, folks, this is 1995. We got Kamala versus Jim Duggan.
What in the heck?
And as if that doesn't read crazy enough, the Dungeon of Doom is here as well.
Yep.
So we got a little vignette before this match. Kevin Sullivan, so it's like a pre-tape thing where they're in, I guess their dungeon, right? Of Doom.
Wherever they are. Look like a cheap kids show set, like where the scary caveman's about to come out.
David, it's the Dungeon of Doom.
It's the dungeon.
That's where they're at. There's no cheap. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. Yeah.
There's nothing cheap about.
Maybe I watched a different part of the section from you.
Yeah, you might have caught like a different.
I might have.
It might have been 96. But Kevin Sullivan, aka the Taskmaster, is he says he's drinking from the goblet of darkness, and now he feels the power, and he's crossed. He's introducing a new monster to add to their ranks of the Dungeon of Doom. And this new monster he's crossed the burning sands of the Sahara Desert. He's a warrior who has slain beasts on stones of Mount Kilimanjaro from the deep, darkest heart.
What a backstory.
Of Africa. The Ugandan giant, Kamala. It's like, what are we doing? But, So we have all that, and then it cuts to Jim Duggan, and he's just, oh, God damn it. He has his stupid stick, and he's like, no more Mr. Nice Guy. And it's like, much love to Jim Duggan. I know he's dealt with, some health struggles as of late, but at the same time, fuck Jim Duggan. So maybe, I don't know, maybe he's had to live through it. I've never really gotten Jim Duggan, but yeah, no more Mr. Nice Guy, according to old Jim. But match happens, and I'm watching it. I'm like, is this in the 70s or 1995? Because you have the spot that stuck with me is the spot where Kamala's like in the center of the ring, and Jim Duggan's like hitting him with punches, and every time Kamala's like, is he gonna topple? Yeah, so we got that deal.
Then he hits his stomach a few times, and Bobby the Brain Heenan says, "Oh, he's ringing the dinner bell." I
Bobby
lost it,
Heenan.
dude.
Dude, I was starting to like write down things Heenan was saying, but if I just kept doing that, I wouldn't have been able to pay attention to the show.
I literally, you can read the transcript of these pay-per-views and it'll just make you laugh out loud. Heenan is so funny.
Yeah.
He's a great guy.
Dude, that's a guy.
Great commentator.
Man, I wish he would have been here during like the podcast generation because he would have had a killer one.
Yes.
But yeah, Heenan also says, I think, Kamala, his feet are so big, he has 10 toes on each feet. It's like, yeah, good one, Brain.
Did you also catch, not to get off topic, but did you also catch that every time the camera would pan a girl in a bikini, they would both just stop talking?
I am glad you brought that up. Yes, because who cares about this match? So the Baywatch girls are here. I guess they're filming, and at some, so I guess I don't watch Baywatch.
Yeah.
It's probably like in the background of whatever they're doing. But so the Baywatch girls are there, and every once in a while, like Heenan, there's at some points where he would like stand up on his chair and like look out.
Sit down, Brain.
There's one line. Brain's great, but so is Tony Schiavone, and the way that they banter back and forth together is hilarious.
Yes.
Because like Brain's like, oh, I think one of them winked at me, and then Tony's like, she got sand in her eye.
Both eyes?
So
that's called blinking. Well, you're just mad she never blinked at you. Nope.
Yes.
Oh, guys.
But some things that are less pretty are Kamala and Jim Duggan. You got Kamala locking in a bear hug. Everybody's sweating and dripping all over the place. Yeah. But Duggan fights out of this bear hug by, I think, like...
No sells it, by the way. No sells the hug at any point in the hug. Yeah.
That's Jim Duggan's thing.
Yep.
But he gets out by twisting his nipples, I think, and he like bites them. I was kind of like half paying attention, but that's how I gathered it.
Terrible.
Then you have Duggan hitting his 3-point stance shoulder block.
Yep.
He's about to get the win here, but the Taskmaster gets up on the apron to distract Jim Duggan, and the Zodiac comes out.
Yep.
It's like a blend. For anyone who's not aware of the Zodiac, it's Brutus Beefcake, right?
Right, and the Booty Man in WCW.
Yes. How would you describe his aesthetic here?
He looks like a zebra mated with a scimitar. Is what it looks like.
So I said a mix between a zebra and Naomi because they had like similar like tights.
Yep. I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
Like you're seeing way too much of his thigh here, but
exactly.
And it is what it is. He's the Zodiac. But Zodiac comes in here while the ref's distracted. He grabs Kamala's mask, his little like headgear thing he comes out with, and hits Duggan in the back of the head with it. And that gives Kamala the win. So victory for the Dungeon of Doom here. Any other thoughts?
I'm ranking this one an F+.
Hey, you give it a plus.
The only plus is the only reason they got a plus is because of the comical trying to see who could out chant each other in the first 5 minutes of the match. I don't know how many chants Duggan got going in the start of that match. I was like, okay, you got
USA.
All right, Duggan, you got 10 minutes. Well, this dude can't go 7, so I'll have to get the first 3 to the crowd. So,
yeah, there was only one person on this show more desperate for chants than Jim Duggan, but we're gonna get to him shortly.
Yep.
But before that, we got a Macho Man promo.
Oh yeah.
Oh, we're at Slim Jim's Bash at the beach. We gotta have a Macho Man promo.
Charisma, the cream rises to the top, and you gotta snap it to a Slim Jim. Yeah.
Couldn't have said it better myself. But he's here to basically promote his match with Ric Flair later. And it's been a whole thing where the last show, Macho Man's father was in attendance. And he got involved. Actually, the 2 shows previous to this, Ric Flair actually attacked his father.
Right.
Put him in a figure 4. And then there's this whole revenge storyline. But Macho Man lost their match at the last pay-per-view. Mm-hmm. In a shady kind of way. So now we have a Lifeguard Lumberjack match later in the show to kind of, I guess, try to neutralize Ric Flair and all the interjections from his buddies. But we'll see how that pans out. But before that, we got some gold. Like, yeah, Macho Man, Ric Flair, who cares about those guys? Because we got some Dave Sullivan to talk about.
Never heard of him.
You're not missing anything. So
nope.
I'll try to lay the foundation on this elaborate storyline here. So the match is Diamond Dallas Page versus Dave Sullivan. But we're not at Diamond Cutter. Or I guess he's doing the Diamond Cutter, but
He's doing the Diamond Cutter.
he's not DDP that we know and love.
He's not DDP yet. No.
He is. Do you ever go to like a wedding or something and they have like a photo booth and they have like different props and silly jackets to put on and sunglasses?
Exactly.
That is who DDP is here. Yep. He's got like the cigar. He's got the glittery jacket. He's got the lady on his arm. It's like, come on, man.
His knee pads are diamonds.
Yeah, well, he's Diamond Dallas. He would just be Dallas Page without the knee pads. He was going to cheer for Dallas Page. So that's basically the reason this match is happening is, if for context, DDP is like the arm wrestler guy in WCW. He's beating everybody in arm wrestling matches. You'll like pluck a guy out of the crowd and beat him. And at the last pay-per-view, DDP challenged Dave Sullivan to an arm wrestling match. And the stakes were, if Dave Sullivan won, he got to go on a date with the Diamond Doll who accompanies DDP.
Right.
But if DDP won, he got awarded Dave's rabbit, Ralph. Do you know anything about Ralph?
I do not. Please educate me, Mr. Kyle.
Well, Ralph is a bunny, a rabbit, some may say. And he is Dave Sullivan's best friend. I don't ask any more questions what he does with this rabbit, but they're friends. So, and that's the backstory to this match. Does that add any value to you?
Nope. the only thing that I was thinking this whole time was this guy is about to become arguably the biggest star in the Attitude Era for WCW.
Yeah.
This guy, that was one of the, that was one. I mean, yeah, I didn't take too many notes on this one. I just put down.
There weren't any to take.
I mean, yeah, I just put down. I'm just so glad I put down two things. I'm so glad DDP eventually got new gear and new music. His music sucked.
Yeah.
It was so bad. So bad. But I will say this, the highlight of this match for me is even in this character that he's playing right now, I've always loved DDP's style. He's a brawler. He's just cut loose, very stiff. He looks for an opening and he throws something at you. And I don't even think half the time you know what's coming. It just okay. I feel like I'm gonna do this. Oh, and here it comes. So I've always loved that about him. He's very unpredictable. Not smooth or technical by any means. He's just a brawler. So I've always liked that style. That's
kind of what's drawn me to Sting as well too. Like he's not like technically sound either, really. He's a little rough around the edges, but that kind of makes it believable in a sense.
Yeah, Sting's just explosive. He just is always coming at you. Yeah.
DDP is a little more scrappy, I guess would be the word.
Exactly. That's the perfect word, scrappy.
And he's very charismatic too. Even at this point, he hasn't really harnessed it and figured out a way to get the crowd to care, I guess. But he's definitely, you could tell there's something there. Watch him here.
What am I missing? Oh, bang!
He's missing. Hey, let me just steal a Nirvana song and come down to it. And people
change one note in it.
Yeah. No. It's dun 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 dun.
Exactly.
But yeah, so the match happens. Like I said, there's not a lot to it. It's a pretty short match. I think it's like 4 minutes long. Mm-hmm. But you got like Dave Sullivan's kind of like winking at the Diamond Doll and stuff like that, and this pisses off DDP. That's pretty much the story of the match. Pretty much. Ultimately, Diamond Cutter for the win for DDP. And this is like, the thing about this match is Dave Sullivan. Poor Dave Sullivan. The crowd, I think this is the point where the crowd's like throwing a beach ball around.
Yeah.
But Dave Sullivan,
this is the bathroom break match.
He is trying his darndest to get the crowd to make a noise, but they will not. But here's the thing, man. This isn't like a one-off match where they like threw Dave Sullivan out there and it was like, oh, it doesn't work. Let's not do that again. Right. No, this dude is like, because I started reviewing these shows in like the spring of '94, and now we're in the summer of '95. Dave Sullivan's been on damn near every pay-per-view.
Wow.
It's like, what? Dude, these had matches with Kevin Sullivan.
He must be Ted Turner's brother-in-law or something.
Well, he's Kevin Sullivan's brother. So,
there you go.
There it is.
There you go. I did not know that. Okay, makes sense.
Close with Hulk Hogan, I'm sure, as well. So, But, yeah. So that match happened, unfortunately. But, so we get a little collection of promos here from the participants in the three-way tag team match. So we got the Harlem Heat, the Nasty Boys, and the Blue Bloods Blue Bloods is Steve Regal and Bobby Eaton. Robert Eaton.
Yeah, Earl Robert.
Yes, correct. You get a Harlem Heat promo. So Harlem Heat have a promo, and then the Nasty Boys have a promo. Without watching the show, you know what the promo sounds like. It's like this classic.
Yep.
Then you have the Blue Bloods. It's like a vignette of them like walking around Hollywood, which is kind of like a fish out of water kind of deal.
Exactly.
Anything stick out to you in these like promos?
Just when you joined me for our top 10 favorite tag team show, Harlem Heat was my number 2. This is one of the reasons why they're raw. They're having Sister Sherry right there with them. Booker T just oozed that charisma, but then the mic would go over to Stevie Ray. He ain't that far behind him. And these two guys, you just believe them. You just want to see them go out there and tear it up. And Harlem Heat carried the WCW tag division for nearly a decade. They were, and later you'll see in the match, when we get to the match, they made it a point. Nobody's going to outshine us in this match. And they didn't. The Harlem Heat was incredible.
I love the Harlem Heat. Even no matter how bad a card is that I watch from WCW, if the Harlem Heat's on it, then
yes, I'm
satisfied. Because like you said, they just ooze charisma. The act with Sister Sherry, that just was perfect. But the Nasty Boys, I gotta say this. I'm becoming a huge fan of the Nasty Boys in watching these shows.
I was.
Because they're another team that were before my time, and I never really got them. Like just from seeing them aesthetically, but watching their matches, they're super fun to watch. And then of course you got Regal and Bobby Eaton out there to do what they do best. I mean, they're great. The facials that they have, their style.
Yep.
You
can tell Steven is William's brother because they look almost daggum like twins. and I just kept going, how the heck did Midnight Express Bobby Eaton get caught up in this gimmick? What the heck? One of the best tag team wrestlers of all time. Why is he a blue blood with Steven Regal? Why is he not high flying with, I don't know, some other guy and being the Midnight Express? But anyway.
Yeah. So before we continue, that was the joke about Regal, right?
Yeah, it was completely a joke because there was a moment I kept going, that's Steven, right? No, it's William. That's Steven. No, it's William. Because
okay, I was like, does he think they're two different people?
No.
I was gonna like blow your mind on screen. I was like, oh man.
No, I don't.
But so it's a 3-way tag team match of all these teams. It's very interesting to me, and I'll tell you why. It's because it's very clear that there was not a lot of triple threat matches before this, if any, much less for a tag team triple threat match. And there's a rule here which doesn't really get utilized a lot today that I think should. It's a triple threat match, and if one team gets disqualified, they're just eliminated from the match, and the match continues on. I think they should. I don't know why they don't do that now.
I've said triple threats, fatal 4-ways, any match that has more than 1-on-1 or 2-on-2 participants in a tag match. There should be, if something is done that is disqualification worthy, then that should disqualify the additional person, and it should go down to a triple threat or go down to a regular match. And I hate triple threat tag, 4-way tag rules where you can tag another person in that's not on your team. Yeah. This is the dumbest rule, and WWE still does this every now and then, where these one person from these two tag teams are going to be in, and this other tag team's over here in the corner, neither one of them is in. But hey, if you're okay with them coming in and possibly getting the win, go tag them. How dumb is that? I don't want any other team in this ring. I want me and my partner, and that's it. That is the dumbest rule.
The only time where it kind of makes sense is when there's a heel tag team that doesn't want to get involved until the end.
Okay, you can milk it that way. Yeah, you can milk it that way.
Which is what I thought the Blue Bloods were going to be in this match, but that wasn't really the case. In fact, I mean, first of all, the match gets started off with a coin toss to see who starts the match.
And we hear nothing and we see nothing, so we don't even know what's happening.
I don't think the people in the ring knew what was happening. But the thing is, it didn't matter because everybody just starts fighting with each other anyways to kick off the match.
Yep.
And this match, I mean, it's a chaotic slugfest, I guess is the way to describe it.
Yep.
Get a little pity city from the Nasty Boys and into the Blue Bloods.
Stop.
Oh man, I'll always pop for it. But commentary is very confused as they should be, because this match is like, there's just no rhyme or reason. I felt like it was just people doing a few moves and then tagging whoever's nearest to, whether it's their partner or whether it isn't.
Right.
You know, you can create a semblance of storytelling with these triple threat tag team. It's hard to, and you know, you may or may not like it, but there wasn't any effort. I mean, but to, like, again, we're in 95. This type of thing was never. This is a very new thing, and it's interesting to watch the kinks get worked out on how this kind of thing works. But yeah, like you said, just random tags.
Don't you know later when the first triple threat tornado tag match, like Hardy's, Dudley's, and Edge and Christian happened? Don't you know Harlem Heat said, "Sucker, we could have been doing that."
Oh man,
you made me tag another team.
What the hell? Oh god, man,
That's
I would have.
so good.
Man, how? Well, that's what this match needed: tables, ladders, and chairs.
Yes.
They had like a little
tiki torches, sunscreen, surfboards. Yeah,
come on,
put your opponents through a surfboard. There you go.
Let's go. Let's do it. I think AEW did that recently, but you know, we won't talk about that.
Yeah.
But so the finish, as if this isn't just ridiculous enough,
chaos enough. Yeah,
the finish was dumb as hell. So we have, and I watched this several times to make sure I had this right.
Right.
So to be clear, there's only 2 legal people in the match at one time.
Correct.
The legal people are Knobs and Booker T. Knobs hits a backdrop onto Regal because everybody's just in the ring. It's whatever. But Knobs hits a backdrop onto Regal, and then Sags hits a backdrop onto Booker. Booker lands on top of Regal. Knobs then hits a splash on the pile of those 2 gentlemen.
Yep.
And then Sags pins Regal. So it's Sags on top, and then it's Booker, and then it's Regal.
Right. Booker's on top of Regal. Sags is sitting on him.
But Booker is not well. Wait, hold on. I'm like,
I'm confused. Booker is legal.
Booker is legal.
Yeah, Sags is the one who's not legal. Booker,
you know what? I think it does make sense then, because Booker is on top of Regal.
And Regal's legal. And so is Booker. Yeah.
Actually, you know what? Booker was not legal. It was Sags and Regal, I think.
Okay.
And it's Sags hits a backdrop on Booker.
So Booker stole one here.
Yes, unless there was a point where Sags like ripped Booker from the apron into the ring. Yeah. But the ref didn't signify a tag. So it was all a mess. But the story here basically. Yeah. So you got Sags on top of Booker, who's on top of Regal. Yep. Sags makes the pin, thinks he wins, but Booker is, I guess, technically legal, or maybe he's just the one immediately on top of Regal. Maybe that's the way they didn't really explain it. But long story short, Harlem Heat retains.
Right.
Yeah, and then they go on, I guess, on a future show to face the Stud Stable and Dick Slater and Bunkhouse Buck. So I'm sure that'll be a barn burner as well. But what were your thoughts on this whole deal?
I just, again, like I said, just if you've never seen the Harlem Heat wrestle, go back and watch them versus the Nasty Boys, watch them versus Public Enemy, watch them versus Sting and Luger, the American Males versus Harlem Heat, one of the best rivalries in WCW. But Marcus Bagwell, Scotty Riggs versus these two, just barn burner matches. Now you got to get past a little bit of the, they're not the Usos in the New Day, and they're not the Hardys and Edge and Christian. They're not going to be as energetic, but the storytelling and just the characters that Harlem Heat were, you'll quickly see why Eric Bischoff and Ted Turner and Nitro and WCW just made them the cornerstone for tag team wrestling, because Booker T, top 10 athletes in WCW history, I would say. Yeah. At least. And good grief, this
WCW history for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. Just incredible watching these guys do what they could do.
Yeah. I mean, they could have a match with me and you, and they would make it entertaining. So.
They would. Absolutely. And the Nasty Boys were good foils for this match. And Bobby Eaton went from being a high flyer to all of a sudden showing I can be this snobbish technical wrestler. That's how good Bobby was. And so for him and Steven Regal to, be it was definitely a clash of 3 styles. So I rated it a C+, because there was a point, I don't know if you remember this, there was a point where all of a sudden the camera pans out and it's just this really long 3-minute wide shot. And so all of a sudden, instead of, WWE does too many camera cuts, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But for the longest time, there's just one static shot. It's like the dude walked away from the camera and forgot about it or something.
Right.
But all of a sudden, just this long back and forth thing. And it gets really confusing. You don't know when tags are happening because they're not close up on them. And you don't know, what move's happening in the corner because you can't see because it's just from this one angle. And so I'm just like staring at it going, okay, now I'm lost. I have no clue what's happening right now because you can't see anything. So
no, I don't think anybody knew what the rules. I don't think the left hand was talking to the right in this situation. Because I think Heenan was like, well, you can't tag in somebody that's not your tag team partner. And then Tony's like, yeah, you can. And then Heenan's like, of course you can. Yeah, that's what I said.
That's what I said. I wish you pay attention to me, Giovanni.
So good.
Oh my gosh, I loved it.
But so we go from that chaos to a different kind of chaos. Lifeguard Lumberjack match. We got the Macho Man
and the Nature Boy.
Oh, dude, I fucking love Ric Flair. You just say what you want about him. He's one of a kind. He's a character.
Top 5 all time, and if you don't have him in your top 5, what's wrong with you? He's that good. He's that good.
He's. I've never seen a tanner person in my life than Ric Flair. Well, I don't remember what he said, but it was the classic.
That's all he says.
Macho Man, I slapped your daddy, and I'm gonna slap you. Yeah. Whoa. That was kind of like a mix between Macho and Ric Flair there. That was Macho Flair, but so
he stays right here pretty much the whole promo, and every now and then you gotta watch your Macho. I'm gonna chop you and slap you and woo, break your legs with the figure 4 because the Nature Boy, the jet flying, limousine riding, kiss stealing, wheeling, dealing, son of a gun. I'm gonna beat you tonight, and then I'm gonna beat your daddy, and then I'm gonna take your wife and all your daughters, and I'm gonna woo. Take it, Mean Gene.
That's the best part. Tell him,
I mean, it just both these men. Okay, I'm just gonna say this, and then we can get to the match. When you tell me, who do you think were meant to be in a rivalry? Macho Man and Ric Flair, arguably one of the most non-talked about, but in my opinion, one of the greatest rivalries in the history of the sport. These two had such fantastic chemistry. They feuded for daggum nearly 4 years in WCW. And it got so personal with Miss Elizabeth. I think that's coming up in the next year. You'll probably be able to talk about that more in the near future.
Yeah.
But, oh my gosh, the matches these two had, legendary. And they never get talked about. Everybody talks about Ric Flair and Terry Funk and Steamboat, and everybody talks about Savage and Steamboat, Savage and Hogan. No one and Savage and DDP later on, which was one of the best rivalries in WCW. No one talks about Flair and Savage, and it's one of the best rivalries of all time, in my opinion. It's so good.
Yeah, I mean, two characters that even people who don't watch wrestling know who they are.
Yes,
and for good reason, because they're characters is the way to describe it. They're
incredible.
Just so exaggerated, but so entertaining. But like I said, it's a Lifeguard Lumberjack match. Because remember, we're at the beach in case it wasn't clear. And so it's basically the ring surrounded. I think it's just wrestlers that are wearing like tie-dye shirts. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I saw Bobby Eaton back out there. You saw Diamond Dallas Page is back out there. Arn Anderson's out there. Spoiler alert. Yeah. And so there's a lot of. And also the Baywatch girls and boys are now lumberjacks in this match. And I would pay anything to watch David Hasselhoff throw Ric Flair back in the ring. I would have paid anything for that.
Was the Hoff out there?
No, he wasn't.
Yeah, I didn't see him. No. Was Pam Anderson out there?
I didn't see her either. I kept looking for them and the dude that always played his lieutenant. I forgot that guy's name. He was a pretty famous actor too, but I keep forgetting his name. But
all of WCW's money went to Slim Jims. So.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
But yeah, the match itself, damn good match. I mean, it's Macho Man and Ric Flair. At the very least, it's going to be okay. But again, as kind of a theme of this show, they're at the beach. It's not really, but more. It's not about the content of the actual match, seemingly. But that being said, you get kind of, it's a Ric Flair match, so obviously he's going to attack the leg of Macho Man. That's a big part of the story going into it. But it's a lumberjack match, so another element of it is the constant throwing over the top rope,
right,
into the lumberjacks. Which, by the way, I guess isn't a rule anymore because he used to get disqualified by getting thrown over the top rope, like very recently, like within the past couple months. So I don't know if they're like phasing that out, or maybe it was maybe it was ignored for the lumberjack purposes. Or maybe nobody was paying attention. It could be either one of those things.
So you're in a lumberjack match. If you got thrown over the top rope, that was a disqualification.
And any match, if you got thrown over the top rope, it was an automatic disqualification.
Wow.
But there was like little caveats. You have to so there was like a match where somebody was like going for a suplex and they like tumbled out to the outside, but that wasn't a disqualification because it was just happenstance.
They didn't deliberately throw them off out of the ring.
Right. So it gets even more contrived, which it makes it even dumber. But
I gotcha.
Don't know what the origins of that rule is or why it stuck around so long. Because like I said, it was here a few months ago in '95, but maybe they're phasing that out here. The lumberjacks, not too much involvement, I guess. They're pretty much just throwing them back in the ring when they get thrown out. Until Ric Flair gets thrown out and the lumberjacks catch him. And all this hullabaloo distracts the ref. And this allows Arn Anderson to get in the ring and give a brutal DDT to the Macho Man. Just a piece of art. Frame that, put it in a museum. Arn Anderson DDT.
It was the snap of the week.
Yes. Well, yeah, that's what they called it. But so Flair tries to capitalize on this by going for a pinfall, but it's a 2 count. And this causes Ric Flair to go to the top rope, which always ends well for Richard here. But not in this case, because he gets tossed off. Who would have thought? He gets tossed off the top rope by Macho Man. Macho goes to the top, comes down with an axe handle, followed by a body slam, followed by the picture perfect Macho Man elbow.
Nobody ever did it better. Sorry, HBK. Not even you had a better elbow than the Macho Man.
No. Classic Macho Man, Ric Flair type of match. Macho Man gets the win with the elbow, and I was pretty happy with this. I thought it was pretty entertaining.
It's the only match on the card I gave an A.
Yeah?
It was... the key phrase that I took away from this match was Bobby the Heenan saying, "Savage never stops."
Yeah.
The epitome. If you want a phrase that describes the Macho Man, that's it. He never stops coming at you. I mean, everybody ranks him and Steamboat's match at WrestleMania like one of the best matches of all time, and it is. In my opinion, it is. Savage is such a brilliant guy. Technical. His agility is almost unmatched. The things he can do with his body that look so easy, but they're almost impossible to do for any other wrestler, is just incredible to watch him do it. And I will say this, when something else that people don't think about when you think about Ric Flair, he doesn't look like a strong wrestler, but he is. He's got those.
He's a big guy.
Yeah, but Bully Ray calls it. He's got go muscles. It's like those, instead of show muscles, he's got go muscles. He's deceptively very strong. Some of the ways he was able to press Savage, who is not a lightweight. Savage weighs like 245 pounds at this time. And he's throwing him around pretty effortlessly. And the one thing I wrote down is I miss watching megastars wrestle when they're actually megastars. We don't have, the closest thing we have probably in today would be, you could say Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns. But I miss watching two guys that the whole world knows their name, and they're going to pack out arenas and pack out stadiums to watch them wrestle. And here we get them in arguably the best shape of their careers, putting on a clinic in front of a bunch of hoodlums drunk at the beach, and not even fully understanding or respecting the art that they're watching right in front of them. And I don't know about you, Kyle. I miss true superstars, true megastars doing what they do with each other on TV and in front of a crowd. I miss it. We don't have it anymore.
I think Cena was the last one.
Probably.
I mean, Brock Lesnar's still around. You can argue I would argue he's a megastar.
He is.
I don't even think I'd argue Roman Reigns is. I mean, in the context of people that watch wrestling, he is.
Yeah, not yet. I'm just saying they're the two biggest in the WWE right now.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. But yeah, in the peak of their career, maybe not, I don't know if the peak, but they're definitely moving around as if it was the peak of their career here. So good stuff there. But that brings us to the main event. We have the WCW World Heavyweight title on the line in a solid steel cage. It is the champion Hulk Hogan versus Vader. And Hogan is not alone. He, of course, has Jimmy Hart, but he also has Rod the Bod.
The Worm Dennis Rodman when he played on the Spurs at the time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Wow. Was he on the Spurs at this point?
Yeah, he was on the Spurs. When he switched over to the Bulls is when we got him later. Hogan and Rodman versus Bischoff and DDP.
Right.
Hogan and Karl Malone. DDP and Karl Malone versus Rodman and Hogan. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was getting like the Jay Leno match mixed up. I was getting my wires crossed there.
Yeah, that was in. Gosh, I forgot what year that was.
That was like 2000, wasn't it, or something?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, the one I'm thinking of is 98, I think.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Bash to the Beach 98. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a hit from what I remember. But
it was a good match.
So Dennis Rodman here, he's just accompanying Hogan to the ring. Although he does get a bit involved later. But before the match, they highlight the Roadkill tour, which I guess from what I gathered is just Vader squashing people on live events.
Yep.
Which is valid. I guess maybe on Saturday night and stuff like that. But man, you don't drink, do you?
No.
But okay, but if you did, and if you wanted to play a drinking game, it would be take a drink every time Vader or Hogan says brother in their promos.
1 minute into the promo, you'd have to call an ambulance.
Dude.
It's so bad.
Like, you expect it from Hogan, right?
Yeah.
But Vader, after like 7 of them, I'm like, is he ribbing?
I think that was I think that was the trend. I think that's just something because Macho did it too. Sting did it. I mean, I think it was just, I don't know what the modern day vernacular of that would be, but that's just what they did. So
let me tell you something. There's a lot of that on this show too.
Yeah, definitely.
So we got promos from Vader and Hogan. We also get a advertisement for the Collision in Korea.
I saw that.
Is that show available anywhere? I didn't see it on Peacock.
I didn't see it on Peacock. I would be interested. Maybe some of your listeners can let us know. I would love to know if that is available.
I would love to do like a watch along or something to that, because it's after seeing that Dark Side of the Ring episode. Did you ever get a chance to watch that?
No, I didn't. I just now got access to Dark Side of the Ring, and I've got so much other stuff I'm watching.
Yeah.
I always, it's one of those shows that I'm like, I need to watch that, but I've never seen an episode of Dark Side of the Ring. I need to. Yeah,
it's not going anywhere. But yeah,
no, it's not.
It's a good one. The Collision. It's just so like, because nothing bad ultimately happened, but this is just like the tension. I mean, it's North Korea. It's like what you would imagine. It's just the danger that they were put in for really. I guess I was about to say for no reason, but I mean I think to this day it's like the biggest wrestling show that's ever occurred.
Right.
I want to say I could be wrong here. Somebody will correct me, but I think it was like 200,000 people.
I think that's the number they said. Yeah.
Yeah, or somewhere close to that. So it's nuts. Just the whole enormity of it. But I think this is before it, right?
I think or did it just happen and they're showing highlights from it?
Or was it like taped and I forget, but
I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember.
Whatever the case is, it's around this point.
I was still trying to recover from all the brothers.
Brother, because Vader, he's like a triangle. Listen here, brother. And then
what is your feelings on this version of Hogan as opposed to late 80s, early 90s, thicker 300-pound Hogan?
It's hard because the thing is, I feel like their in-ring style is pretty much the same. I think this version of Hogan in '95 definitely moves around better, but ultimately, as far as what he's doing, I think it's the same. Mm-hmm. The only difference would be, late '90s or late '80s, early '90s just had much more of like a larger than life kind of aesthetic to it.
Like the He-Man. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, he's still big here. Don't get me wrong, but he was just comically big back in the day. And I don't know, what did you think about it?
Yeah, I felt the same. To me, the mid '90s WCW Hogan was the first Hogan I saw. Because that, again, WCW was my first exposure to wrestling. So the first time I ever fell in love with Hulk Hogan was this red and black character. Mm-hmm. And it's funny watching this match especially, and I've gone back, and watched WCW matches recently that he was in, like the one where Luger beat him for the title in 96, 97. And of course the Starrcade match with him and Sting, which was, I feel so terrible that match ended the way it did. It could have been so much better than that. But just watching Hogan, I'm like, this guy doesn't do anything but like 3 moves.
Yep.
But why does he make me get so invested? It's like the unspoken charisma and the unspoken body language and the constant facials, he's doing with his eyes and everything. And I'm like, he sucks you in. I'm like, that's why he's one of the greatest of all time, because he just makes you want to keep watching the match. And I'm actually watching the the Attitude Era right now, where Big Van Vader is, messing with the Undertaker and Shawn Michaels, and he just formed a tag team with Mankind, and I don't know what it is. Maybe you can enlighten me. I can't get into Vader. I don't know if it's just because he's not Bam Bam Bigelow, and he's not any of these other bigger guys that were a little bit more athletic than him. But I can't get into Vader. For me, he's boring. I don't know why. But
yeah, I don't know. I know at some point when it comes to Vader, it just fell off. Like, I know he was a monster, and then he was like the WWF version that you're just talking about. But I'll say this. I watched a good bit of him from 94, and his matches with like Sting and even like Big Bubba Rogers and stuff, I love those matches. I thought he was a really believable monster, just the way he clubs you, and super athletic. I mean, we get a lot of that nowadays with big guys that are athletic, but back in the day, that wasn't a super common thing. Yeah, like him and Bam Bam Bigelow. But yeah, I don't know. I think at some point he just, for whatever reason, that mystique kind of went away. I don't know if this is where it started.
You think he lost too much?
Possibly. I think it maybe, trying to think like other heels that were coming in. Maybe the Giant comes in, and all of a sudden Vader is like half the size. So it's like, what? But Vader, he goes to the WWF not long,
right?
Not super long after this. Maybe it's like a year or so. But I know eventually, because he's definitely there in 96. Right. But I do like watching Vader, at least like early Vader, because like I said, he's just so smash mouth, and he just has a really cool presence about him, and the moonsault. Like, I'll tell you this. No one hits a more devastating moonsault than 100%. Vader. It's 100%. Not pretty, but he lands it flush every time.
I'll give him that. I'll give him that. He's the last person I want to get moonsaulted. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I don't know, maybe his character was a little corny. Maybe it was a little outdated. Maybe that's kind of ultimately what it comes down to.
I think that's it. I think it's the I think it's a lot of that. I think if he just walked slowly, didn't say a word, and just beat you, I think that would make him more fearful to me. So.
I've always been confused by his mask, because he comes through the ring in a mask, but then he just takes it off. Yeah, I was like, why bother? Like, you have the headgear.
Well, funny, in WWF he didn't take it off, and I think Vince wanted him to keep it on. So
I agree with that. I agree with Vince on that one. But Vader's okay. But when he's not just flowing with brothers out of his mouth. But then you got Hogan. Man, Hogan promos. He's always talking about his new tricep vein. Yeah, he seems to have a new tricep vein every show. I mean, it's quite the story that's being told here.
You could tell at this point in his career he needs to change something, and right around the corner he changes. So it's yeah.
Well, it takes him exactly 1 year to change, but it's definitely the crowd's still with Hogan. Like they're not by any means turning on him, but the honeymoon period is coming to an end, because he came. Well, it's actually been a year, because he debuted at Bash 94. Now we're at Bash 95. He turns heel at Bash 96, so it's a pivotal show for him. But so I had to bring up the promo, because Hogan, he says that he's going to pick Vader up. Because remember, everybody, they're at the beach. So he's going to pick Vader up, and he's going to throw him into the shark-infested waters. And then the sharks are going to eat Vader. So that's how I thought this match is going to end. Was with sharks eating Vader, but that's
you were waiting for Hogan to pick him up, carry him all the way through the crowd to the ocean, and the last thing we see before it goes off the air is Vader throwing in the ocean.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking more of like him grabbing him by the ankles and just like tossing him into the ocean from the ring, but to each their own. Yeah. But so yeah, Hogan, Vader. It's been a very long story that's been being told. I mean, was this June 95? It's the summer, whatever. But this story kind of got started like towards the end of 94. Because Vader won the #1 contendership, and then they've had like various tag matches on pay-per-views and non-title matches. But now we're here finally. It's in a steel cage, and this is the time period where the steel cage is like the be-all end-all of blow-offs. So
yeah, even though it's only 8 feet tall.
Yeah, what the hell was that?
What the heck?
I was like, Hogan, just jump over it.
Yeah, just...
Oh man, you're lucky you don't have like Montez Ford in this match. He's just gonna hop right over it.
Oh yeah, Jeff Hardy would be like, "Hey, no, that ain't even worth climbing."
Yeah, it was very rickety.
It was.
But it's a Hogan match. You said it earlier. You know what you're gonna get with a Hogan match in this era. You know, he gets beat down by Vader, but eventually comes back. There's one point where Hogan puts on, because Vader has the big like elaborate steel headgear that he has on. There's one point where Hogan like puts it on and like headbutts Vader with it, which I thought was pretty funny.
That was funny.
I was like, Vader, why don't you just wrestle in that? You know, if you're gonna wear a mask.
What is that thing? Stainless steel? I think so. And Randy Anderson just barely holds it with one hand.
I didn't catch that. That's
But that's like perfect timing. Right when they say it, the weakest guy in the ring can hold it with one hand.
It's 500 pounds of solid uranium. And he just, Randy Anderson, like, get this piece of shit out of here. Tosses it over the cage.
I love Randy Anderson. I love
he's
Randy
the man.
Anderson. Oh,
He's the man.
a good ref.
But yeah, we got a lot of ramming into the cage. Just a really cool visual. Like, can you imagine? Like, hey, it's a Sunday afternoon. Let's head to the beach. You got nothing else going on. And then you turn to the right and you got Hulk Hogan wrestling Vader in a steel cage. It's like, where are we? What time is it?
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So ultimately, Hogan, he's kind of trying during the whole match to slam Vader. You know, just trying to rekindle that Andre the Giant mystique.
Yep.
Ultimately, Hogan does slam Vader, but he hurts his back in the process. Vader takes advantage of this, kind of beats on Hogan a little bit, but who would have known? Hogan hulks up. He's getting rammed in the cage, but even so, he's like, "Oh, brother." And this causes the Taskmaster and Zodiac to come out, because we didn't get enough of the Dungeon of Doom before.
Absolutely. How about an encore?
Yes. Encore indeed. But thank God the Worm is out there. Dennis Rodman. He runs off Kevin Sullivan and Brutus Beefcake with a steel chair. And so that takes care of that. But in the ring, Hogan hits a leg drop, then a second leg drop. But instead of pinning Vader, he tries to escape the cage for whatever reason. So he climbs to the top. Vader's able to stop him before he gets over the top ledge. They're kind of fighting on the top rope against the cage. Eventually, Vader falls and gets crotched on the top rope. And this allows Hogan to escape and retain his title.
How do you feel about escaping the cage versus pin or submission inside it?
I'm okay with climbing over the top, not through the door. That drives me crazy.
Do you remember... Did you ever see the match with Owen versus Bret Hart where literally the only way to win was escape? And the entire match is climb, pull down, climb, pull down, climb, pull down. And I remember talking to Bob from Back to the Ring about that. He said that is one of his, as much as he loves that match, it's one of his least favorite matches, because how stupid is it that the whole point of the cage is to keep people out of it so you can get what you need to get done in it. And so why is the objective to get out of it when the whole point of your rivalry was to finally get that opponent in it? So I was like, so I'm kind of, I get what he's saying. I'd rather use the cage, bloody your guy up, and then finally make them pin or submit them in it. Why after all this time, you know, I've got you prone. I'm going to pin you or put you in a hold to make you tap. No, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to risk my health and risk my injury. I'm going to climb out this 6, 7, 8 foot or the WWE 25-foot high steel cage.
All right. Yeah. So in this case, I agree with you, because why would Hogan? You have him down, just go for a pin. Like, why are you trying to escape the? I guess I don't know. But if there's a scenario like you're talking about Bret and Owen earlier, and it's been a while since I've watched the match, so I might be wrong here, but I believe it was a story of, Brett has Owen in the cage. He's finally got Owen to himself, but
Owen keeps trying to get out. Yeah,
because that kind of tells a story of how much he doesn't want to fight Brett. Like he'll risk his health to escape the cage. He'll do whatever it takes to avoid doing this and to win the match and whatever it is. So if it's something like that, it's like, okay, I get it. But the door thing is that there's no
terrible. It's
you can't make that work.
It's terrible. I agree
unless
with you.
There's been a few finishes that have been kind of fun, but the concept just doesn't work with me. But Hogan wins here, and then they like undo the cage. Hogan celebrates, he poses, he leaves, but Vader's still in the ring, and Ric Flair comes out to berate Vader because the past couple months it's been this kind of a thing. It's been like Flair and Vader versus Hogan and Macho Man. It's been that kind of clash. They separated into singles matches on this show. But so Flair's like, what are you doing? You didn't get the job done. You had one job to do. Woo! Like all that kind of stuff. And so Vader does not take too kindly to this, and he attacks Rick. But Arn Anderson's back out here to make the save, and he like pulls Ric Flair out of the ring, and Arn and Ric Flair scurry away as Vader kind of just stays there. I don't know. He just leaves, gets a tan.
Right.
I don't know what he does
so.
after this.
Now at this point, is it just Rick and Arn, or is there? Because I know Benoit's about to come, and then Mongo is on commentary. Mongo becomes the fourth. So is there any other horsemen around at this time?
Not at this time. So I think I have not watched this time period, but I've seen bits and pieces, and I believe we're about to actually get a feud between Rick and Arn that lasts a bit, but then they eventually get back together.
Right.
And it's sometime either the end of this year or early next year when Benoit comes in, like I said, Mongo, and then that's the whole thing. Because the next Bash, because I watched Bash at the Beach 96 somewhat recently, and at that point it's Rick and Benoit and all those guys, and like Miss Elizabeth is there, and Deborah too. So it's like that's a weird period of Ric Flair. That's not my favorite, but but yeah, the show kind of peters. I do like the because like Arn and Tony Schiavone and Bobby the Brain Heenan, they're like, all right, that's the show, folks, and then they like take their headset off, and then this whole thing happens with Vader and Rick, and then Tony's like, wait, are we still on? Are we still on? And they're like getting their mics on and stuff, and it's
holy cow, we didn't expect this. What's happening, Brain?
Yeah, so that was kind of cool. I liked how they tried to do that, but people like leaving as it's happening. It's like, what the hell? It's show over.
WCW did a really good job, especially with you're going to get to it later, especially when the NWO finally did invade. It felt so real.
Yeah,
the camera angles, when Jimmy Hart came running out to the ring to interrupt the match and said, you don't understand, the outsiders are in the back, and nobody believed him. And then finally a camera got back there, and it's literally one camera filming the entire thing, trying to catch whatever he can catch. And Hall's beating up Bagwell, and Kevin Nash, the famous scene where he throws Rey Mysterio into the side of the trailer, and then Macho Man hops on top of the limousine, all one camera moving. One camera. It felt so raw and so real. Nope. Monday Night Raw. It felt so, it felt so organic. Like, oh my, and literally I remember hearing a story from Kevin Nash. The police got called 3 times that night from people in the area thinking it was real. So that's that's a sign you're doing it right.
And you say this all the time, and I agree with you. I miss that. Like, I miss that naivety, like that us fans have towards the product. Like, is it real? Is it not real? Because everyone has to have, claim they know, even if they don't know. So I do miss that, and I think there's a golden era.
That's the way I still try to watch it, and
I do too.
And like I said, if I put that filter on, if I put these sunglasses on, and I'm watching it as if it's real, and all of a sudden you do something so stupid, either on mic or in the ring, to where literally you've yanked them off my face, and I know it's not, then that's on you. But these people that are like, I'm going to choose, it can't be real. I'm not, it's no way it's real. Those are the people that I'm like, you're missing the whole point. Those are the people that go to watch David Copperfield and go, I see the elephant, I see the mirror. I'm like, dude, why'd you pay your money to come watch this then if you're going to act this way? I don't understand it, man. I don't get it.
I found if you turn like social media off while you watch wrestling shows, there's so much
more fun. It's so much more fun.
You can suck it, but yeah. So Bash at the Beach '95, man. What a thing, man. What an experiment from WCW.
Absolutely.
I could see why they didn't do it too much more. I mean, just from like a financial, logistical standpoint. But
Right.
for what it was a cool thing that they did. I mean, any other general thoughts on the show?
No, like you said, just every now and then they made sure to get that sweeping shot to watch that huge crowd gathered around that
From the
ring on
helicopter.
the helicopter shot over the beach, and I just like, this is cool. And then later on, was it the next year in '96, the first ever Hog Wild, where they showed the huge wave of motorcycles and all of that? And I'm like, WCW was not afraid to, to do these really cool concepts, and let's make it organic and let's make it real and all of that. Now, granted, WWE did a little bit of that in the Attitude Era, but the majority of it was, very controlled because they wanted the audio and they wanted the of course. And I agree. They want the utmost safety of their performers. You have no idea when any of these drunk surfers is going to jump the rail and get into the ring with Hogan. But, so I see that for sure. But no, I applaud them for doing something unique that, again, neither one of us are going to walk away from this and not remember that scene and not remember that, that beach filled with people with a ring in the middle of it. That I'm never going to forget that visual. And so props to WCW for doing it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And even, it's just a stark contrast from what we see today, because now,
100%.
At least with WWE, pay-per-views, TV shows, it's all the same. And that's from listening to Eric Bischoff talk, like on his podcast or wherever. It was definitely an effort to make each pay-per-view have its own theme.
Yes.
And sometimes it was as ridiculous as being on the beach. Sometimes it's just having Halloween decorations. Sometimes it's having motorcycles around. But every pay-per-view felt like an event. And it felt like a unique event. And from that aspect, I agree with you. Much
100%.
props.
100%.
But speaking of an event, speaking of great shows, the Bammer Slammer, Smacked Raw. Where can everybody, first of all, thank you, Dave, for making the time to watch the show. Come on, talk about it. Where can everybody find you and listen to you?
You can find me on Twitter at BamaDave24. You can find the Smacked Raw podcast at Smacked Raw Podcast. We stream every week on twitch.tv/SmackedRaw. And we also have a YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/SmackDraw Podcast. So if you don't catch us live, you can go to the YouTube channel. You can watch our clips and our, all the episodes we do, including our Mute RMs, which if you've never met RN and heard one of his rants, it's must watch. It is absolutely golden every time he does one. So if you go to the channel just for those, then you're getting your well wishes. But no, Kyle, it's been an honor to be on here with you. You've become like a mainstay on my show. I think we have a we have a very similar palette when it comes to pro wrestling, what we like about it. And so it's always fun catching up with you, man.
Absolutely. We'll definitely do this again sometime.
You know we will. Absolutely.
Once again, thank you to Dave, Bama Dave, from the Smacked Raw podcast for joining me to cover this ludicrous show, Bash at the Beach 1995. Once again, go check out the Smacked Raw podcast at Smacked Raw Pod on Twitter. Their link tree and all that shiz is in the description below. So go check them out. Really, really fun podcast covering current day stuff as well as more evergreen topics in wrestling. So go check them out. And apronbump.com for all of my full episodes. And hey, if you enjoy this kind of content, you're like, hey, I enjoy WCW retro reviews. Go to apronbump.com, go to the episodes tab at the top, select WCW, and that'll bring you to all of the WCW shows that I've covered thus far. And that's everything from Spring Stampede 1994 up until now. So everything from then to now and everything in between. Go do that if you want or don't. I mean, I'm not the boss of you. That costs extra. But anyways... yeah, do that. Follow me. Tweedle my nipples. Call me a little bitch. All the things that you do for your favorite podcast hosts. And yeah, it's about all Daddy has for you today. Thank you all for listening today. Smooches all around. I'm hard.
Talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what heart is. Standing strong and proud, nothing I guess. Let's get it started. It's the hardest.